Dreaming of owning a property in a prime location with great proximity and fantastic neighborhood? EJ Investments Sanyang Seaview Estate is the best choice you have been waiting for. Our Sanyang Seaview Estate is approximately 15 minutes drive away from the busy hub of Brusubi roundabout and into the heart of nature, where you can have a peaceful and relaxed lifestyle with your family. You can buy a finished 4-bedroom story with 5-year flexible payment plan or a service plot with 2-year payment plan option. With over 300 homes, you will enjoy big tar roads with covered drainage, modern electrification with solar street lights, gated entrance with security post, and a breath-catching experience of our beautiful sea view and lake view. You can own a home today at our Sanyang Seaview Estate. Call us today on 446-4838 or 325-9220. Visit our website on ejinvestments.net. EJ Investments, first in property.
Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of The Brunch. I'm Lamin Cham today, sitting in for Joy, your usual presenter. Now, this afternoon, we will, of course, treat in comprehensive manner the fallout from the recent cabinet reshuffle. We will also talk about another major issue that has been burning in the week in the Gambia, and that is the Supreme Court injunction case involving nominated member of Assembly Yakumba Jaite versus the state, if you like. We will also talk about the deportations. Was there a moratorium agreed between the Gambia and Germany or not? And we'll talk a little bit about the Gambian economy in the eyes and observation of an IMF mission to the Gambia. I'm Lamin Cham, and with me is Mustafa Kedabo. Unfortunately, we don't have Nima and Joy, but then we will try as much as possible to treat these matters as extensively as we can. Mustafa, welcome.
Thank you.
Now, straight from the peak, well, let me start from the injunction, the ruling that the Supreme Court made. We will talk about it extensively with a legal luminary in the name of lawyer Alhagie Abdouile Fatou later on when we expand the topic. So maybe I should just go straight now to, let's start with the deportations. Last week, the government spokesman issued a press release to say that the Gambia government and the ambassador of Germany in the Gambia agreed for a moratorium, that's a temporary halt on the deportation of Gambian nationals from Germany. And we later had news from the German Ministry of Foreign Affairs to say that there is no such agreement to suspend deportations, even though the planned deportation for this month chartered flight has been delayed for one reason or the other. But now, Mustafa, and I must congratulate you because the article, the press release from Germany quoted your earlier blog on the matter in your blog when you reported it, and exactly what you reported is what happened. So, congrats for that. But now, what does this mean? Here, the Gambia government saying they now have what I would say a moratorium and a temporary halt on deportation, and they said before that they have no control over it. So now, which is which? And in the light of this new release from Germany, are we being told exactly the truth about this deportation?
I will address the first important thing in this, which is the importance for the government to tell its citizens the truth, or when it's lying, to lie convincingly. This is very significant in governance.
You lie convincingly.
Yeah. If you want to lie, because
if it is a lie, if it is a lie, it's a lie.
Yeah, if it is a lie,
whether it's told convincingly or it's told.
Yeah, I said that because
awkwardly.
Because sometimes, in the broader scheme of governance, sometimes citizens are not they're not certain, being aware of certain things may not be in the interest of the public good. But if you are going to tell the people the truth, it's important to tell the people the truth and the whole truth. But in instances where telling the truth would cause wide panic or things like that, when you go into lie, you lie convincing. Now, the problem with the Gambia government is that the government from day one have not been forthcoming with information. And even where instances where a government is forthcoming with information, they felt far short inadequately communicating the message. Now the problem of the Gambia government is two contradictions in this message you've just read.
Yeah.
One, on the other hand, on the one hand saying, we have no control over this deportation, we are not aware of it, and on the other hand saying, in fact, we have some control such that we can even put a ban on it, a temporary ban on it.
Yes. And now the German government...
This in itself are two contradictory things. Then now you hear from the German side to say, well, there is no moratorium, because German knows its right.
Yes.
German knows its rights to the very fact that when people of descendants in people of Gambian origin are in our country and we don't want them there, we reserve our right to deport them.
That's right.
You understand? German knows its right.
Yes.
The Gambia has no right to tell German that you must give our citizens a document to stay in your country.
No.
Gambia has no such powers, it's not under any law.
Yes.
So to come out and tell citizens that, we in fact have this right, or we can tell German what and what not to do, it's at best...
It's not true.
Yeah, it's not true.
But the new thing now is then they're saying that, from what I got, deportations will continue.
It will continue because, and they've made reference to also the document in question. Now, the good practice document that we've always talked about here, good practice document for return procedure, simply outlines it does not say that people will come. It outlines how people will come. Because the idea is, EU has said that there are over 6,000 Gambians who are in their member countries, mainly in Germany, Italy, and Spain, who have no documents to stay there, and they have exhausted all their asylum
procedures, and they will need to become repatriated.
And they need to be deported. Now, in that kind of a circumstances, EU also is aware of the challenges that Gambia faces as a country emerging from dictatorship. And it's on a transition. That is the reason why there is this document called Good Practice. This is what Gambia government, it's existence of this that they are denying.
Exactly.
Which is where the problem is.
Because this agreement of, you know what confuses people, and I think what enraged the government and perhaps, drove them to make, contradictory statements is when it's put like they signed the deportation agreement, the meaning you get there is without the Gambia government signing that yes, you can deport our people, the people would not have been deported here. I mean, that's the general meaning people derive from it.
But if that is the general meaning, then what is the essence of having spokesperson of the government?
Yes,
communication minister.
Yes.
Press officers at State House. What is the essence?
Exactly. So
press officers at the foreign. They cannot explain the basics of things.
A whole team of communication experts, etc. So when it is said that they Gambia government signed an agreement, the impression one gets there is if the government had not agreed, there would be no deportation. Whereas that's not the case. Government has no choice.
The truth also is that the government have little choice, but of course, deportations happen in agreement with, of course, the countries of origin.
That is because they have to be identified. There are other people who have a document, they have to be identified.
Yes, and they have to be issued the documents.
So is this the part that the government failed to explain to the people?
This is the part the government failed to explain. And another part is to explain also what the good practice document is. What is it that we are talking to the European Union about? What is that document? What is the content of that document? The document that it's there. In fact, when the foreign, because you remember this document that you referring to as being published on my blog, it's in fact published on the Standard.
Yes, of course.
It's just a copy of that same story that I produced on the blog. Now the point is, after that story, the Foreign Affairs Ministry issued a statement.
When it was published.
And it was lot of saying there is no such thing. And it's after that we published about the protest of Gambians in Germany to which they also issued a statement. Now, but the point is, they've all been denying the simple things that are here that could be explained in simple of ways.
So the government's message should have been, all right, we don't have any control as to the deportation of our citizens because they are in a foreign land who has their own policies. But what we've negotiated with them was for it to be done in a reasonable and acceptable manner.
That way. For instance,
that should have been there.
For instance, in the document, one of the contentious issues is how many people can be deported to the Gambia in a month.
This is what they have agreed with the German authorities, that you can bring 15 at a time, and not more than that.
Yes. So, but this negotiation is not between Gambia and Germany.
European Union.
Yes, European Union.
So any country,
any European Union
who is deporting will come in 15 or so.
Could rely on this document to
bring
deport people who don't have documents to stay in their countries.
In the first place, they have to be identified, and it's German authorities who go there to identify them. And
which is what every responsible government does.
So, but even this is controversial because, I mean, I've heard and I read a lot of, would-be deportees who are either running away from their houses. Some say they are even sleeping in the streets. And once they see a Gambian, Gambian official, they take it to be a collusion between the Gambian government and the German government to bring them. So when they come down there, they're angry with the government. Is it because the government failed to explain this thoroughly? That's why they got this kind of...
It's arrogance. Yeah. Trust me, I consider it to be arrogance. You see, Gambian public officials don't still understand the concept of democracy. The concept that information in your custody doesn't belong to you, it belongs to the public.
If you
don't understand that.
If you keep it too long, it will come to haunt you.
Yeah, how long does it take a journalist to get even the basics of
information? Even now it's a problem.
It's even worse, getting worse. Because information in the custody of public officials think this information belongs to them. You go to them to even ask them about a government contract, they will tell you this is confidential.
Confidential.
So I cannot talk to you, I have to get an order from my boss. But the point is, now the problem is in twofold. Halifa Sallah and Lawyer Dabo had a problem with this in the National Assembly. When Dabo was Foreign Affairs Minister, the day that dispute over decorum happened, in fact it was preceded by this. Now the argument that Sallah was putting to Dabo was, can't we talk to our partners and relate to them that our challenges, the challenges we are facing within our economy is so enormous that we cannot for now reintegrate thousands of our people from Europe. How about you help us train these people, give them some skills within a period of 2 years.
In Europe.
Then bring them home.
In Europe.
We would have, yes, in Europe, in Germany, in Italy, in other countries. Then we would have also prepared the ground for receiving these people. This was the argument that Sallah, and Dabo in admission on that day also said, well, they are in negotiation. In fact, he agreed to the very fact that they are in negotiation. So, but what is being negotiated
was the taboo. They don't talk about it. Okay, so government...
And that's what they got, that's what got them into this.
Now. So government failed to communicate effectively and accurately on the matter. And now we have given contradictory statements, and now the German government has come out to say that they have no moratorium agreement with the Gambia to suspend the deportation, so deportations will continue.
And it's a shame that, well, that people, Gambia governments, any association between Gambia government and the EU, even loan agreements, it's EU that gives it out.
That gives the press releases. Government doesn't talk about it.
Government.
With all the team of communication experts, nobody talk about it. So this is what is haunting them on the issue of the deportation.
It is.
Now, moving from the deportations, we move on to the big story. President Barrow over the weekend, as many people were expecting, because I saw the reaction of people said, well, we saw it coming, because if you look at the last few months, the relationship between the government, between Barrow and Dabo has been very, very, very bad, so to speak. So it was either Dabo quit or Barrow will have to lift the axe. Did you see this coming?
Well, yeah, we've talked about it here several times. In fact, it got to a point when we said that it was no longer tenable.
Yeah, for the
two of them to be working together.
Even in the interest of Gambia.
Yeah, even in the interest of the Gambia. So it got to a point when it was no longer tenable. When Dabo's position,
So now,
Barrow's position was no longer tenable.
Let's open up now. This is, we expanded between just disagreement between Dabo and Barrow, no matter how their individual influence is on the politics of the country. What does this tell generally of the governing coalition governments?
Well,
if a bystander somewhere watching, a neutral person, what would he or she make of the governing, coalition government and the change that came into us into 2016?
Well, coalition is effectively dead. I think that reality is not lost on us.
So the coalition is over?
Effectively.
So it's President Barrow who's now running his government as the only sole survivor of the coalition, if there is any?
Yeah, because the idea of
but
the
coalition could still be there. PPP is there and the independent
even
candidate
UDP is still there.
Well, yes, but then the thing is now, if, so to speak, the influence of the parties who are, have all gone, and there is no DOI, there is no
there is no DOI, there is no UDP, yes.
Yeah, so do we say now that
by
and large, President Barrow is the only person now who's left?
Well, they are still part of the government. The reason why I said coalition is effectively dead is because the idea of the coalition was not to have an executive president. But that in itself is also against the constitution of the country. Yeah. Because by Gambia's constitution, when someone is elected president, it effectively assumes that responsibility as an executive president.
Absolutely.
With all the powers that comes with it.
Yes. There's no other argument.
There's no minor commander-in-chief and a major commander-in-chief. Yeah.
But at least if the coalition agenda had stayed, the president, whatever powers he has, would have still been confined to the whims and caprices of the coalition and would not
and would have been not overpower the agenda
and will not outpower them at any moment.
Yes, if the coalition agreement had stick, it's difficult for it to stick. But if that had gone, the president would have been guided by the coalition agenda, because the president would have been constrained by a lot of, by even the executive secretariat that was supposed to be established by the coalition.
Who do you blame for the initial disintegration of the coalition?
Yeah. So this is the point. The sword that Dabo drew is the sword he fell on. I mean, that's what a lot of people say.
Now, the general interpretation,
but also
I think you are right in a way, because the general interpretation was the UDP were the ones who emboldened Barrow.
Yeah, as the executive president.
Yes, they quite emboldened him by actually, projecting him, just because at the time he was, very good bedfellows with the UDP. He came from there. I mean, the UDP was projecting that this government is a UDP government, and Barrow was playing along with that, along those lines.
Yeah, but we must also be honest to say that.
Now listen, the other coalition members felt bad, and they began to sing songs like, this government is becoming to be a UDP government, when actually it's not UDP alone that brought it about. Now that Barrow and UDP fell out, there are elements in the UDP who are now trying to subscribe to the idea of, in fact, every one of them going back to the drawing board to respect the 3-year term. Well, not the leadership of the UDP, because they have already committed themselves to 5 years. So, to be fair with them, the UDP leadership never said they are going for 3 years. But then certain supporters are saying exactly that it should be 3 years and not beyond anymore. Now, where does this whole thing leave us now?
The transition. Yeah. I think let's take a step backward. I think in the first place, even though you could blame the UDP but Barrow had always been Barrow. He had always had his own plan.
But then
it was not something that was forced on him.
Now listen, Barrow.
No, I can admit the fact that it was UDP that created the idea of the executive president. Yeah. That's why I said Dabo fell on the sword he drew. Yeah. That's what I said that. Yeah. But I'm saying that also Barrow was always Barrow. He was this very guy who UDP was playing with, but he was also playing his own game. Remember, this idea of Barrow attempting to form his own political party came very early, even before any tension emerged between him and the UDP camp. I wrote about this at a time.
That was when they talked
about when the storm gathering in Banjul, and a lot of people were like, "You are crazy." I mean,
was that when the idea of the youth movement came about?
Even before the idea of youth movement came about. In fact, far before the youth movement came about. In fact, in my second interview with him at State House, I did ask him this: do you intend to form a political party? And Barrow's answer to this has always been, well, we will wait until the time comes. Anybody who intends not to form a political party would have deadly told you right from that.
I agree, because he never said also how he was going to respect or not respect the coalition. He had always said the people is left to the people, and I asked him personally how that would be, and they wouldn't come clear.
So you could say from the start, Barrow has his plan. Of course, UDP was ignorant of this, but Barrow, from the basics, he had his own idea. He has his own agenda of what to do. From there, you're talking about how this leaves the transition. I think that's what the question is. So the transition is, I think, we could still be the transition could still be on track, because the transition entails certain reforms that that ought to happen. Reforms in the legal area, legal field, also reforms such as the institutional reforms and other stuffs. I think that could still go ahead. It could still go ahead.
You don't think, because politics divide, actually. Most people's analysis is that the politics have come back too soon in the life of the transition, because politics divide.
Some reforms will not come.
Some reforms will not come, and some meaningful objectives would not be achieved in some of the reforms because of the strong divides in politics now.
Yeah, because think about a situation where Barrow feels suspicious that he may not make 50+1.
Yes. What's going to happen?
What is going to happen to the idea
That's
of
what
having
I'm saying.
50+1 in the
meaningful objective reforms we said, electoral reforms, that will introduce the introduce the second round. That's what we're talking about.
Or reduce the powers of the executive.
Or reduce the powers of the executive.
May not come.
Today, may not come. And even in this second round, if the UDP felt that, and they enjoy quite a number of following.
Indeed.
If they believe that the present existing system of election is what favors them, the first past the post, I mean, they may block reforms that wants to introduce the second round.
Yeah.
And then where do we go? We Gambians don't get the reforms we want, because they have started politics far too soon in the life of the transition. So the whole purpose of the transition, majority of them would have been defeated because of this politics that has started. Now, who do you blame?
There are economic ramifications of this also. You see, that is one thing. Maybe it would take us to the IMF thing.
Now, before we go there, who do we blame for this present scenario?
Well, I would blame the president.
Barrow.
Of
course. In which way?
Because it's the president, it's Barrow who come on an agenda.
Yes.
It's Barrow who is voted to fulfill a particular agenda.
Yes.
And if that agenda fails, you hold Barrow's hand. There is no other person you can blame for this.
He is determined that that agenda won't fail.
Well, if it does not fail, then that's it. Because every other person is, if I can use for want of a better word, sackable.
Yes.
Like every individual can be sacked.
Yes.
Without consequences. Now, because you are hired by an individual. You can be fired by an individual.
Now, if all the people, or majority of the people he came with to implement these things have now left, only a few are left with him now.
Well, they left because he wanted them to leave.
Yeah, then I'm saying that's one thing or the other. And it's not, they left not because they are incompetent, but because he did not agree with them politically. That's where the problem lies.
So then that's Barrow's fault. You can't blame Hussein or Halifa or Syria for Barrow being who he is.
Now, who is the betrayer? Because whatever you like, the topic is betrayal. Who is the betrayer?
I don't think
the betrayer of the nation on one hand, and
of the coalition.
Between the two.
So I wouldn't be dragged to describe him as a betrayer.
No,
I think
who is the betrayer?
I think he's the commander-in-chief. He has the right, and he reserves the right to fire anyone.
Now let's
He's an executive president.
Yes.
He also reserves the right to choose who can help him fulfill his agenda. So I think where my problem would come is when he fails to fulfill that agenda. Then I would hold him responsible for that, because we would have been clear on why he failed to fulfill the agenda. So, but for now, I would rather not.
so doesn't that agenda include for him to quit after 3 years?
So for me personally, I don't see 3 years to be a very workable.
From the beginning.
I want to.
Yeah, but the position
from the beginning, I have always thought that it would be appropriate for us to go for the. Of course, I know that logically, Alfayam Kanwalti, when a president speaks and says, "I will do this,"
it's not only him.
He should do that.
Now, why the others?
But on the other hand,
why the other coalition members
also
are
be a little bit flexible?
Why the other coalition members are holding him to account? It's not only his voice who gave the promise that we will leave after 3. Yeah. All the rest of the coalition were campaigning on that.
Yes.
On that promise. Now, if that promise is been reneged on, the coalition members have the right to try to put it in order. They said, look, this was a collective promise we made to the people. Now you are reneging on it. That means you are telling people that we have not been truthful to them. So the coalition members have a right to try to put him in order. But didn't he come and said he no longer need to consult them?
No, that's where the problem also is. Barrow should never have said he
will not consult them.
Yes, he will not consult them. Of course, legally, constitutionally speaking, he was right. He was right that he doesn't have to consult anybody. He wields the state power. Yeah, but the reality is that he had gone into an agreement, a contract of that, for that matter, with a group of people, and it behoves on him as someone with integrity, as someone who holds state power, the most respected office in this country.
Yes,
to
display
and to be a man of his words.
Quite integrity, yes.
Yeah. That is a moral problem.
Okay, now let's get that's a moral question of morality.
Yeah, not law.
Not law. Okay, supposing Barrow, as he insists, will see through his agenda, no matter all the sackings. Supposing he succeed in that. Let's talk about his gamblings, so to speak.
Yeah.
He has now offended DOI, offended PPP, offended at the time the major party in the coalition. Now he has offended 3 parties now, right? Because I said PPP because PPP had said they want 3 years and he didn't like that. DOI, well, they did not say they didn't like him to go for 5 years, but they would prefer he keep his word for the 3 years. Now, do you think with all these 3 allies out, what kind of ally, where did Barrow hope, perhaps, in his ambition to run for a second term, would he draw support from?
So this is the question.
Yes.
You see, Honorable, I have been thinking about this for quite a long time because it's like I'm obsessed with this kind of politics. Yeah. But let me tell you my thinking all along.
Yeah.
We've seen Barrow going back and forth on several things. Like sometimes you plan he's trying to form an alliance with APRC. Sometimes you try and he's becoming softer on Gambia because he wants to draw the APRC close. Sometimes you have the feeling that he wants to form his own political parties, and another time you have the feeling that he wants to increase his influence in the UDP to be able to put aside Dabo and lead and win the presidential mandate from them. Sometimes you see a very confused man. You see a man who is lost, does not know what he's doing.
But politically, has he been decisive now with this
sacking? He does not know what he's doing, with all respect.
But has he been decisive now with these sackings? He definitely is decisive about parting with the UDP for good.
No, yes, but he's parted with them, but also parted with close to 36 National Assembly members. Because you've named, yes.
Not UDP members,
not
UDP
entirely is 31,
UDP.
PDYS is 4,
Yeah.
and PPP is 2, I think.
So he's parted with all of them?
Yes.
So I mean...
Effectively. So, also, remember that the strength of APRC as of December to 2016 to November to December 2017 has relegated to 4 years. That's where they seem more powerful than any other.
So what I'm saying, what I'm trying
essentially,
to... Yeah.
What Barrow is a man who has proven unable to create his own political party.
What some analysts are saying, and what I want to draw into saying, okay, if whatever he's doing is a gambling, right? Like I said, he by categorically refusing to talk with Doy or agree with Doy's point of view, he probably annoyed Doy. He doesn't agree with PPP over these transition matters. He apparently not agree with Fatmata Tambajang or whatever group he represented on this matter. Now, if UDP, Doy, and I can tell you these are the major parties in the coalition, yes. UDP and Doy.
Yes.
If he is not seeing eye to eye with them now, where will he ally? Which allies would he form to be able to defeat those people at the polls when it's held today? Now APRC, you are trying to describe APRC. Okay, APRC.
Yes.
Now, in fact, some members of the UDP started accusing him of, embracing APRC elements.
Yes.
Now, like we said here many times, APRC does not have the numbers.
They don't have the numbers?
No, because what happened was even the people who voted for Gambia, the 200,000 people, once he was gone, because they were supporting him for various factors,
yes.
so there were a lot of people who are genuine lovers of his style.
APRC.
They are still there.
But they are very
a lot of people who were compelled to accept him, to vote for him because of one reason or the other have left.
Yeah, and by the time
we have seen
this,
we have seen that in the subsequent elections, their base has just been confined to a certain area.
Yeah, absolutely.
And any negotiation with APRC would involve trying to find a soft landing for Gambia, because apparently Gambia is still their center of attraction.
Absolutely.
Whoever they negotiate with, you have to have a soft landing for Gambia.
And that has
whatever that means.
That has consequences.
And I know
Barrow
will diplomatically, that will be a no-go area for him.
Not diplomatically alone, economically as well.
Because and I know because of
entertaining any such idea would annoy the UN, will annoy the international community.
He will naturally lose international goodwill.
That is effectively discrediting him
because of Jammia's reputation is not very good internationally.
Yes.
So will he gamble to embrace APRC? Provided they even have the numbers that he can rely on, or will he reach out to GDC? Because apparently GDC has been accused now of softening their stance when it comes to Barrow now, and even some of their leadership have been recorded on tape saying that they prefer Barrow to Dabo. So is he hoping to draw GDC
now
and APRC together, perhaps?
Now, in this case, here is the point.
Yeah.
In politics, there is something called necessary evil.
Yeah.
There is someone you just can't put up with, but you put up with the person because the interests are aligned.
Yes.
That exists in politics. Now, the fact of the matter is, there is a difference between people appreciating you because you have just humiliated, for want of a better word, in politics it's not enemy, adversary, but I will use rivalry.
Yes.
You push away my rivalry, I like you.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily mean I will vote for you.
That's the feelings that you get from
online.
People who naturally don't like Davo politically are jubilating this.
But the point is, if we are 4 in number, and two opposing sides, 2 in one camp and 2 in another camp, and you see I slap someone on the other side, you like it and you jubilate it. You understand? But the point is, you don't know how this, it's like more or less like this. So Barrow is on one side, now UDP pushed on another side. Now, there is two opposing camps. But remember, there is a bystander who is celebrating.
Yeah.
The chances that the bystander is celebrating might be that the bystander is thinking you are now becoming more vulnerable for him to come and defeat you.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Yeah. Meaning that...
not necessarily celebrating because you push this one aside.
Yeah.
But the push aside could make you more vulnerable. And in this case...
So in other words, if Barrow feels that by sacking Dabo or marginalizing or distancing himself from UDP, he is going to gain more approval from other sides. So he must be misleading himself. He could be misleading himself.
He may, but it's...
He may think like this.
He may think like this,
Well,
but this may also be the case. But the fact of the issue, it's not quite like that.
Yeah.
People may not necessarily choose you as a leader. Think of a scenario where the JDC comes and APRC and choose Barrow as a leader, as the presidential candidate.
That would be quite.
It would be a miracle.
That would be quite out of the.
It would be a miracle.
Quite away
That's
from
what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to drive at. It would be a miracle, but they will obviously be happy that he has pushed aside UDP because remember that UDP's also position in government has further strengthened their chances of re-election. In future elections. So having them out of government works for the PPP, works for the GDC, and so that's what they are celebrating.
Now the Barrow diehards would argue that, okay, he probably will get some bit of... Did you see GDC, or rather UDP, as still a formidable, cohesive force that's unbreakable or impenetrable by Barrow? Because his proponents, his supporters are saying he probably will go with a chunk of that party, get the GDC,
of course,
or perhaps ally with APRC to try to outnumber the GDC.
He could get a little, but I told you, Barrow has proven unable to break UDP. That's his frustration. Now the point is, let me give you a classical example. Who hired Yakumba? Who was Barrow?
Yes.
Barrow was Yakumba's person. Of course, Yakumba was UDP.
Oh, you mean that one he exercised his own influence to get her? Those are his close associates, not because they come from UDP.
He hired Yakumba. He nominated her into the National Assembly, right?
I see. Yes, that's naturally, but it came from the UDP.
Yes, even though Yakumba comes from the UDP. So what would you have think? Who would you have think Yakumba would be loyal to?
Him and not the UDP.
Yakumba would have been loyal. If you would have, common sense would tell you Yakumba would be loyal to.
No, but the
Barrow and not Dabo,
no,
right?
But then the thing, I think the scenario that changed. I mean, when Barrow was doing all those things, he was through and through UDP.
Yes.
Even though he was masked that he was an independent.
Yes, but I'm saying when dispute now occurs and Yakumba were to choose loyalty, you would have assumed that Barrow, holding all factors constant, Barrow is more powerful than Dabo because Barrow is the president.
Yes.
Now, I am saying if Barrow had any sort of attraction or influence as a political leader, you would have assumed that Yakumba would have gone to him, but he didn't. Yakumba went to UDP.
Exactly.
So you have seen cases like this in nature. Let me give you an example. An executive president that attempts to get its own people in a UDP regional establishment and they take them out.
Yes.
It's not an influential executive.
Exactly. No,
so that is what I'm telling you. I'm telling you effectively, Barrow's frustration is that he is unable to penetrate the UDP. Now, so whether he is going to be able to form his own constituency and attract some people from UDP, that's still open.
Yeah. But even that will not be enough if it doesn't have
It's not going to be easy, but no fight is easy.
All right.
But that's still open.
All right.
But also think of the fact that Barrow, when you think of Sidia Jata, for instance, even Abu Huraira will find it difficult to defeat him in Wundia.
Yes, that's the problem.
Now,
but do you think...
you think of Khalifa Sallah, he has Serakunda.
Of course.
If he is not challenged by UDP in Serakunda, it's always a clean win for him.
When they were allies in NAD, he won handsomely.
It's impossible to defeat him there without a challenge from UDP.
Yeah.
Now, think of all the key political leaders in this country. They have a place where they go to.
At least.
Now, where is Barrow's place?
That's the problem.
Can they defeat Barrow in his own home here?
So Barrow is gambling.
This is the problem.
So he's gambling. He thinks
but like they said, a day in politics is still a very...
So we have still 3 years to go, 2.5 basically.
Barrow
So he thinks...
could rule Gambia for 15 years. It's still possible.
Oh, okay.
Well, the chances are very slim, but...
They're slim. Because what genuine analysts were trying to find, where will his support base and where are the numbers? Because he is not, the diaspora actually are not, his approval rating, diaspora is 0.
He has lost that.
Okay, UDP have been the party, no matter how their differences, we don't want to say who is right with their differences. Who is wrong. But we are trying to say that no matter what the problem is, they are his biggest allies because they embolden him now and to overgrow even the coalition.
And also in the interest of, you see, calm.
Yeah.
And conducive atmosphere, stability is important for the effective functioning of the commander-in-chief.
That's why I said...
this is also a turbulent environment.
I'm saying, would he have enough concentration now to implement these policies with all these distractions and all these isolations? I mean, all this noise about him now. That's another thing. There are a lot of people who will, of course, rush to fill the places.
Well, maybe he's privy to facts we are not. He's the commander-in-chief. Every intelligence community in this country reports to him. But everyone is privy to where the votes are, and he's interested in the votes. All right. At this point, we'll take a break and look at our entrepreneur of the week. If our producer, rather our director, is ready. And the entrepreneur this week is Mariama Jabang. She is a fruit vendor who has now specialized in the sales of kaba. You know kaba. It's a type of a fruit, very much... kaba.
Yes, kaba. Very much...
it's not in Badibu Barani.
It's in Badibu. I've been there. It's everywhere.
It's not in Salikene.
It's there. I know. That's what they... Before they take lunch, that's what they feed on. And they couldn't chew anything. They continue. It's a delicious fruit actually, and it's expensive. I've seen it. I tried to find. I tried to buy a cup or so in Senegambia area. It was terrifically expensive. So, in this edition, we're going to profile her. She set up this business, you know, and it has created a lot of benefits, and she got people into the business. And she's growing. She's Mariama Jabang. If our director is ready, we will take a look at the entrepreneur of the week.
Matu da Mariama Kabagala much matu Kabagala ni dima oye Kabala de jay dam siya du kabar la don jay dam don jay lu ñor rek de kaba ñëw may jaay kaba orange banana mandarin di tax lu ñor rek maa ko jaay solom léegi ma spécialisé kaba ma gis na comme nit ñi kaba lañ gën a fonk kaba lañ gën a bëgg léegi du dee ñor du dee baa waa bente dam le parce que business la nag ne mun a loos nga win so dam de am patient bente di ko def rek dañ lee leb duñu fay te nga man tamit duma lacc ne suma xaalis Four people are employed plus my money 5. ñëpp xale yi magi libanese yëpp ñu ngi fi waaye tubaab du leen lekk kaba nit ñi comme suñu ñëwee mën na leen kaba 200 150 dañu defal comme tubaab bi la du loolu kaba cher kaba nekkul beneen lekk bi nga xamante ne danga koo jaay price yomba kaba moo cher te nekkuñ si time season kaba dam de all make sure that gaa ñu lekk kaba loolu moo dee tam mu dee cher in 5 years time maa ko gis dinaa am factory bu rëy bu ëpp jul buru seen factory may export kaba di yóbbu di ko def in different flavor juice su ma ko mënee def alcohol naa ko def nit ñi sam bu ko bëgg daal loolu laa ko defee.
xale bi yàgg na di dan dooleem depuis bu mu nekkee grade 8 mu ngi dan dooleem ay palaat la doon indi bàyyi ma ko fii mu dem jànga bu ñëwee mu fekk fii jaayam wala mu fekk jaay bi jeex na mu jël xaalisam mu dem xale bi noonu la kooto goto ba time bi moo fayal boppam school ba time bi moo tax xale bi dem ko over buga si sama biir xol xale suñu meloon kon kii xam naa ne suñu waajur bu nekk du sonna ci sayti doomam waaye tray na boppam trop moo tax ma jël ko def ko suma xol ma may anti wonjo santa jinjel
mu ngi Sénégambia soo rombee craft market bi da nga am gaaya time in opposite yooyu rek soo fa àggee di ma gis mbaate soo la ci nit ñi fu kabaagaal nekk staanam nañ la indi mbaate nga jël suma nomba soo réeli 325 3239 4474 119 325 3239 3474 119 mooy suma nomba.
suñu mbokki Gambien fii pour ñu ñëw di ñu support always ñu ñooy jënd si kaba pour ñu gën ñoo góorgóorlu rek ñu gën a keep it up anyway ñu jàppale Gambia mu jëm kanam.
waaw ñu ngi gërëm suñu mbokki Gambien ñi ñu ñëwee fii li ñu support si business bi ñu nekk di def nii ñu ngi leen a gërëm tam di leen a apprécier because am na yenn xale jigéen yi bëri ñoo xam ne ñu ngi fii dañoo am classe di jaay high classe pour ñëw toog fi di jaay kaba waaye ñun seetuñ si loolu ñun dañoo ñëw jàppale ko nekk si gannaawam pour mu gën a strong xam nga ñun ñu ngi fi pour yéen yëpp daal Gambien yi daal dañu nekk fi pour bégal leen jàmbaxal leen kaba bi dem neex.
ok maa ngi wax suma client yi Gambien yi yëpp I love you all maa ngi fii pour yéen di leen defaral si kaba yi di leen ko yóbbu bugg ma kenn mun na ma kaba loolu moo tax ma koy export pour gaay ñu koy jënd nga gis ku na ma kaba rek nga xool ma order la kaba mbaata ma wala fu ma nekk di ko jaayee nga gis in next year ma am suma own factory bu rëy bu amul fenn si Gambia bi di jàppale nit ñi nga gis man tam ma mun employé ñi nga xamante ne ñu ngi tambambal si mbeeda bi amuñu mbaata dañu ne amuñu liggéeykaay mun nañ fii ñëw ma leen di employé comme seen morom ñu ma nekk fii di employé ma leen di fay ñuy am seen añaareel ñuy bëggee ñuy nekk benn it does not matter who owns the business but hence we are working together is all one.
Dreaming of owning a property in a prime location with great proximity and fantastic neighborhood? EJ Investments Sanyang Seaview Estate is the best choice you have been waiting for. Our Sanyang Seaview Estate is approximately 15 minutes drive away from the busy hub of Brusubi roundabout and into the heart of nature, where you can have a peaceful and relaxed lifestyle with your family. You can buy a finished 4-bedroom story with 5-year flexible payment plan or a service plot with 2-year payment plan option. With over 300 homes, you will enjoy big tar roads with covered drainage, modern electrification with solar street lights, gated entrance with security post, and a breath-catching experience of our beautiful sea view and lake view. You can own a home today at our Sanyang Seaview Estate. Call us today on 446-4838 or 325-9220. Visit our website on ejinvestments.net. EJ Investments, first in property.
Welcome back to the brunch, and that was Mariam Jabang, an entrepreneur, also popularly called Kabakal. All around the country they call him Kabakal. He sells a lot of fruits, but the Kaba fruit, of course, is the most popular. And she's at Senegambia. You had all what she has to offer. And now, back to the program, and we take up one of the major issues, actually, which is still not even overtaken by the cabinet reshuffle, and that is the injunction filed at the Supreme Court by the Honorable nominated member of National Assembly, Yakumba Jaite. The Supreme Court ruled, I think it was just a partial ruling. They said the injunction has been dismissed, but the substantive matter to decide whether it was constitutional for the president to remove a nominated member of parliament is yet to be decided. Now, a lot of things have been reported, a lot of analysis, and we are happy that in our midst today we have a legal luminary in the name of lawyer Abdouile Fatou. Mr. Fatou, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Prior to the ruling, you made an extensive presentation on the case, trying to explain all the nitty-gritties of the case to the layman. Does the president have a right to revoke the nomination of a National Assembly member? And first of all, what's your reaction to the Supreme Court ruling?
I was aghast. I was surprised that the relief sought by Yakumba Jaite wasn't granted, which was to restrain the Speaker from administering the oath and to restrain the clerk from bestowing on Mr. Gassama the rights and privileges of MP, and to restrain Mr. Gassama himself from being sworn in. So those are the three prayers, essentially an injunction to stop the swearing of Mr. Gassama.
Yes.
All the three reliefs were rejected, but the Supreme Court actually went further.
Yeah.
So what the Supreme Court actually did, apart from not granting the relief sought by Honorable Yakumba Jaite, they actually made an adverse order against her.
Yeah.
So what they actually did in the ruling expressly was to say that she was prohibited herself from interfering with that process of Mr. Gassama being sworn in, and also from interfering with him exercising or carrying out his functions as MP. So the Supreme Court actually went beyond what was actually sought or prayed for by the plaintiff, by the applicant. Yeah.
So she wanted to restrain those people that you have outlined, but the Supreme Court went ahead to prevent her, saying that she herself had no rights or prevent herself from being a member.
Yeah, so basically she was stopped from disturbing that process, from having any direct or indirect interference with that process. So i.e., if she were to go there on Monday or on the 18th, on the day of the swearing, with people trying to prevent Mr. Gassama from entering the National Assembly premises, or going there herself to claim that she's still a bona fide member of the, that would be in contravention of the order, because that means she's interfering with the process one way or the other.
So basically, they just don't want her to go there to continue to claim that.
Absolutely, yes, yes. So from now on.
So what does that depict now?
Well, firstly, I was surprised, because I thought, and that's my opinion, and several others as well, because the principal claim here, the subject matter is whether the attempted removal by the president was constitutional or not.
Yes.
So that is the crux of the matter. Okay. So, but those are substantive matters that the court will have to deal with in the proper argument before the court.
Yeah.
But at this stage, what the court ordinarily would have done would have looked at the merit of the application itself, whether there was merit in granting the prayers that she was seeking, i.e. to restrain Mr. Gassama bin, so effectively to prevent Mr. Kamara from assuming office as a nominated member. The court did not really go into any legal argument. So as far as I can remember, there was no legal argument. The only reason that they gave, there was this presumption of correctness in executive appointments. which I suppose is the political argument. So I don't think there was any legal argument contained in the Supreme Court's ruling. But nonetheless, it is my opinion that the Supreme Court looked at this at length and had to come to a conclusion to either grant the application, which would have effectively suspended the nomination of Mr. Gassama, and that would not therefore have affected the attempted removal of Yakumba. But either way it could have gone. So they could have stopped Mr. Gassama being sworn in, but stopped Yakumba Jeda from actually carrying her functions until the matter is determined. But ordinarily, my guess was that the injunction was going to be granted, so the status quo will remain. So she will continue to function as a nominated member until such time that the matter substantively has been decided. So if at that point the court is of the opinion that the removal is constitutional, then she'll have to vacate her seat, and Mr. Gassama then to assume his place as a nominated member. But now
that they have gone further.
They've gone further. So what would happen now would be the likely scenario is, or the question would be, would the Supreme Court in 2 weeks or in a month or 6 months, whenever a judgment is delivered, would the Supreme Court then turn around and say, okay, the appointment or nomination was unconstitutional, and therefore, and this will be after Mr. Gassama has been sworn in and started carrying out his functions as MP, would he then have been asked to vacate his seat and from Yakumba then to replace? I think that would be very unlikely, because that would be almost inconsistent with what happened yesterday. If the likelihood is that Yakumba's nomination would have been deemed unconstitutional, she would have been asked to continue carrying her functions.
So there are a lot of people.
So in other words, what you are saying is that what the Supreme Court should have done was, since it has not concluded interpreting whether the act is constitutional or not, it should have, both parties should have waited until that conclusion is done. Going and how to call it, Mrs. Kumba also not attending Parliament until it has been.
No, I think it would have been. There was nothing wrong with her continuing. So basically, the status quo to continue to prevail. But
the different lawyers were saying there needs to be a hurry, because at the moment it's only 5 instead of 6 nominated members in Parliament, which is not order. So they begged the courts to make a rush decision.
The Supreme Court, however, said in the ruling that the ruling yesterday does not in any way prejudice the substantive, the suit itself.
So,
but by all accounts, you infer, okay? So not everything has to be expressed explicitly. Sometimes you make an inference. So looking at this now, considering all the circumstances, can we reasonably infer that the decision of the Supreme Court is that they do not find any fault with the President's nomination, and that once Mr. Gassama assumes office, that's the end of it?
That's what they inferred.
Well, in their ruling, what they said was that they were acting on a presumption that all official appointments are legal. So probably in that case, maybe one could say, perhaps their act is innocent. Perhaps they don't have the main case in mind as they did that.
I was very surprised with if the Supreme Court had said in the ruling that because of the urgency of the matter, the fact that there's no express provision in the Constitution either allowing or disallowing the President from removing a nominated member from Parliament, and because the Constitution is expressly silent on that issue, and for the purposes of national interest, for the purposes of the National Assembly continuing to exercise its functions, having a full quorum, having a full house in terms of the elected members and the nominated members, something along those lines, because which would have still been based on constitutional basis. But the issue of the presumption of lawfulness of executive appointments, I am not convinced.
Okay, but here is my thinking. Do you not think that, I mean, since we know it's the president who rules, it's the president who wields the executive power, and that the president has acted in a way that is questionably legal or otherwise, it's questionable, and the case is before the Supreme Court, yet to be determined. Do you not think it would be appropriate to allow the president's decision to hold for some time, pending the decision of the Supreme Court over its constitutionality or otherwise?
Yeah. This is a contentious issue, and it's important because there are so many things here. This is more than the law. Okay, this is about the relationship between the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature. So this is separation of powers. And no body, no organ, supposed to have unparalleled power in relation to the other one. And this is a well-defined principle. It's existed for hundreds of years. In terms of the point that you are making, i.e., once an executive makes a decision, the presumption is that you don't interfere with that until such time that the matter has substantively. But again, what, for example, if the president had removed the speaker? Because expressly in the Constitution, a speaker may only be removed when there's a 2/3 vote in the assembly. Yeah. So what if the president had removed the speaker? So would the same argument be made by the Supreme Court that because there is an executive decision and therefore there is a presumption that you don't find fault with that until it's been looked at substantively?
And the circumstances are the same because this speaker too is nominated by the president.
Absolutely. So absolutely. Although for the other nominated members, the Constitution is silent in relation to how they vacate their seat. But for speaker, it is expressed that when there is a petition or a motion supported by 2/3 of the House, the speaker may be removed.
But we have seen Jammeh remove speakers, so he didn't go through all that.
Okay, it will be comparing apples and carrots, oranges and I think Jammeh had no regard for the Constitution.
Is Barrow trending on the same lines? If with this president, could he be tempted now to ignore every rule in the book?
I think.
Well, that's what some commentators say you can lead to.
I think yesterday's decision was important and far-reaching. In that, I think it has emboldened the president. Had the Supreme Court granted the injunction yesterday, the president will take notice.
He would have his powers checked.
Absolutely, he would then.
So even for the layman and the neutral and the lover of democracy, the decision in favor of Kumbak, where they would have gained more plaudits democratically for the government. Absolutely.
This issue, I think the legal part of this is actually minimal. I think this whole issue is about politics. Okay, politics not in terms of party politics, but politics in terms of direction of this country. Politics in terms of polity, in terms of good governance, in terms of the rule of law and upholding the principles of the rule of law. And this principle, if you look at parliaments all over the world, okay, firstly, the constitutional law is supreme, so it governs everything. But apart from that, acts of parliament are the second most important laws. Most important. Okay, the president himself, all his powers, apart from those that are derived from the Constitution, are enacted from the National Assembly. The National Assembly has powers to actually call the president to parliament in discussing important national matters. And the National Assembly also has powers to call the president, but through the vice president, in relation to presidential matters. And the law is saying that it's mandatory on the vice president to answer those questions. And the National Assembly, again, has the powers to remove the president by a 2/3 majority. There is nothing in the Gambian Constitution that gives the president an oversight power over parliament. It is the other way around. So, but the fundamental issue here in relation to the ruling itself is that, let's look at the Gambian context, okay? We had a president or a dictator who had no regard for the National Assembly. So he removed people from the National Assembly as he pleased. Okay, he disregarded the independence and the neutrality of the judiciary. Okay, two individuals who actually sat and presided over this application yesterday are victims because they were removed from office for decisions that they made for simply carrying out their judicial functions.
So do you think, without trying to draw into politics, of course, the decision of the Supreme Court actually derailed the independence of the judiciary that we think with this new change we would have achieved?
Okay, there's nothing.
There's nothing to think that the judges were, of course, politicized. I mean, we give them all due respect, and hope that they are independent. But then, if you look at it now, this decision actually seems to have drawn more criticism, of their operations than praises.
Absolutely, and with some fair justification. Okay, I don't think there's anything to support the claim there was direct executive interference or the president interfered with the decision. Okay, if you were to make that claim, you have to have reasons. Okay, I didn't have any, so I'm not going to make that claim. However, there could be implicit or indirect, subconsciously.
Some said the very heavy presence of security before the ruling was made public suggested that, well, maybe the authorities know what the outcome would be.
Yeah, there's this rumor going around that perhaps that people knew the outcome, but again, there could be so many reasons for it. So, the ruling could have been given to a clerk to print. One of the judicial staff, and Gambia, so they would have just seen quickly text somebody else or speak to somebody, and the message would expand. But let us not underestimate the power of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court itself, although a creation of the Constitution and statute, but its work is more political than legal. Okay, but I mean political in terms of, but the Supreme Court has the powers to shape the political trajectory of this country. Okay, the Supreme Court has powers to ensure that the judiciary, in carrying out its functions, check and balance the powers of the executive, and even the National Assembly, if it passes laws, whether those laws are constitutional or not.
So you agree to some analysts who said, okay, now the judiciary have conspired with the executive now to erode the powers of the legislature. So from now on, the two will be at loggerheads with the National Assembly, or the National Assembly will at some point stamp their feet to show their relevance in Qatar by rejecting executive legislative plans, or etc.
Whether there was a conspiracy or not, again, it's a conspiracy in terms of did the two bodies come together to try and. But the issue is, we have to, it has to be relative to our context. Okay, we just emerging from a brutal dictatorship, from somebody who had no regard for the rule of law, for the constitution, for parliament, for the judiciary, or anybody else. Considering we're only 2 years away from that, and confronted with this really serious national interest matter, and for the Supreme Court not relying on perhaps a constitutional provision, but to make this political statement, i.e. there is a presumption that you don't disturb a political appointment in this context.
That's quite
I think, it's the language it sends, is that perhaps the justices do not want to challenge
or offend
the executive. But that's the role of the Supreme Court.
Job.
That's the role of the Supreme Court. So if you look at, for example, in America in the election in 2000, was it 2000?
2000.
Al Gore and George Bush. It was the Supreme Court. So this is the American people who went to the polls. Okay, and Al Gore actually had more votes. The other one had the more electoral college votes.
But then, of course,
it was the Supreme Court who actually decided that the legality of Bush's election was valid. Okay, so you had 6 people, I don't know the composition of the American Supreme Court, but millions of Americans who voted, but you only have a tiny number to finally decide on the outcome of this, the biggest.
And if they were more Republicanly inclined, then suddenly they are going to say it was Bush. I mean, their political inclinations can get.
Absolutely.
So you are right in a way.
So the issue here is the role of the Supreme Court in ensuring that the National Assembly enact laws that are consistent with the Constitution. But also, the executive, when carrying out their executive duties, act within the powers that conferred on them, within the law. So what happened yesterday, for example, if 3 justices had said they rejected or one grant the injunction, but 2 did, then perhaps you can say, there's some form of balance. Okay, at least there was some form of argument and they disagreed. But the fact that all 5 justices unanimously agreed but that they didn't want to disturb the nomination of the president, I think it's worrying, and it speaks volumes. It really speaks volumes in terms of our democracy and where we aspire to be.
What about the earlier listing put in by your colleagues, lawyer Ibrahim Jallo and LK Mbouch? Can you enlighten us? What were they trying to achieve against the National Assembly members who signed who attended that caucus meeting?
I'll ask you the same question. I do not have any answers, but I do not know for the life of me what Mr. Mbouch and what Mr. Jallo were trying to achieve. I frankly believe that the 2 of them have brought the administration of justice into disrepute. Because Mr. Jallo is very young in the bar, but Mr. Mbouch is experienced. Okay? And I've got respect for him for his knowledge of the law. But on this one, I think he's got it fundamentally wrong. Everyone knows, even lay people know, that parliamentary proceedings are privileged, and MPs are immune from civil or criminal prosecution. In terms of matters relating to their work, okay, if an MP decides to go to be in possession of cannabis, that's a different matter. But in terms of the exercise of their legislative functions, they are immune, and those things are privileged. So Mbouch should have known, but you cannot drag these people to court. So he's, parading to the gallery, and I think it's very unfortunate because lawyers have a moral responsibility to the public. Okay, you may have an opinion. Okay, other people may believe that the removal was constitutional. I differ, but we have to respect our different opinions. But then decide to drag 31 or 29 MPs to 31 MPs to the Supreme Court as well as the AG. First of all, what is your locus? What is your standing?
What is your stand? Who are you representing?
Who are you representing? Okay, Mbouch and Jallo has formed this new Gambia Law Society or something. If the suit was actually filed by the Law Society, I would have assumed, because you could say as an interest group. But as individuals, what is their locus? And I'm surprised that but perhaps the reason why the Supreme Court didn't dismiss one against Yakumba, because they don't want us in or prejudice the other case. But ultimately, I think that would be the most likely conclusion. I think that was just a waste of the court's time and resources, and a waste of everybody's time, and to also distort this conversation about constitutionalism.
So you essentially think that the case is lost? That's your position?
The lawyer
the substantive case?
No, we talk about now discussing about the Mbouch suit. But in relation to the other one, in relation to the Yakumba suit in itself, okay, there'll be arguments before the Supreme Court. Okay, I'm guessing the lawyers for Yakumba will make compelling arguments in relation to, and these are these are not even legal. It has to move away from that. These are political arguments, arguments in terms of legality and legitimacy, in terms of politics, in terms of direction of this country, in terms of having a fair check and balance over executive powers and executive decision making.
I've spoken to someone who told me that you lawyers say court is not a Father Christmas. It only gives what you ask. And he told me that the lawyers, perhaps representing Kumba, have not made a compelling case, perhaps for the injunction. I don't know whether you've been following the court proceedings. Do you think that could also be a possibility?
No, completely.
Because if the Supreme Court's response is the very fact that they operated on an assumption that the president's, or in fact they said, having considered the submissions of parties and on the basis of the legal principle favoring the presumption of the regularity of all official acts, the applicable principles of law relating to the grant of interim restraining orders, the court has come to the conclusion that the interim orders applied by the plaintiff, Yakumba Jeta, should not be granted. That's on assumption that the executive act lawfully.
Yeah. Yes.
So they have assumed that, but the substantive
But
cases
was there a task to assume?
Let me just. So the Supreme Court, in a sense, said they have assumed.
Was there a task to assume or to interpret?
No, but this is an injunction, a restraining order.
Okay.
Isn't there a difference?
Okay, let me just give you, tell you what an injunction is, and the type of application made.
Yeah.
So the main suit itself is challenging the constitutionality of what the president's actions. Okay, so that would be the substantive issue that the Supreme Court will have to deal with. The motion or the application for an injunction is an interim application. Okay, so it's a side issue because by the time judgment is delivered in the main suit in relation to the substantive issue, I don't know when that's going to be. It could be a week, it could be 2 months, it could be longer than that. And normally Supreme Court, unless if they expedite because of the urgency of this matter, but normally that takes a while. Supreme Court matters take a while. It can take 6 months or longer. But generally, this is common practice. Okay, you go to court, you're asking for something. If Mr. Cham's Standard newspaper wanted to publish something about me, or want to publish something about anybody that is damaging, okay, and you don't want to be published, you can go to court.
Yeah, that's right.
Temporarily. Okay, so you can file to challenge the legal basis, i.e. what they're trying to do. But in the meantime, you can go to court and ask for an injunction to prohibit them, to basically stop them from doing that. So in this case, essentially what Yakumba was trying to do in terms of, because if the injunction was in sort, and they just went there to challenge the constitutionality, and in 6 months' time, well, that means, okay, you're not contesting the swearing of the nominated member, and in 6 months' time, the Supreme Court decided, oh, they can turn around and say, you know what, we don't want to disturb what's happened, okay? So somebody else has been sworn in. They've already started work as a nominated member. It's been overtaken by events. So that's why the objective of the application was to stop Mr. Gator from going into Parliament as a nominated member until such time, and it always happens, okay? And that's the more reason why I assumed, or anyone, to reasonably conclude that the injunction was going to be granted. So, because at the moment now, the entire suit itself has been, I'm not saying it's been defeated, because that'll be prejudicial, but I think, like somebody described it, it's hanging on a cliffhanger.
Absolutely.
It is hanging on a cliffhanger because at the moment, I think it is just barely breathing. Okay, so it's been choked. It's been choked, so it's barely breathing. So the life has been, it's been basically sucked out of it. Because it's very unlikely that the Supreme Court in the judgment will turn around and say, okay, now Mr. Gassama, exit the National Assembly, you go back. It wouldn't look tidy. So I think what they would do, and I think because of this now, I don't think the Supreme Court will engage with the issues in a very substantial, holistic, substantive manner. I think what they will now do is, like judges did during IJM's time, because I remember I actually appeared before the High Court in relation to the solo standing case. I was actually asked to go on behalf of Mr. Camara, LS Camara, in relation to, if I can remember, for the National Assembly, no, not the NIA, or one of those organs, I think this is a habeas corpus, to actually tell where the body was, or something along those. I cannot really remember, but it's something to do with the solo standing death. I remember the Nigerian judge at the time said it's been overtaken by events. So basically, the application now, what is the point in looking to the merits? It's already been defeated by things that happened. So the same way, I would be very surprised if the Supreme Court were to turn around to say and look at it. So I think it would just be safe to play it safe along the lines of what they took yesterday, along those lines, and just leave it as it is, which will be very unfortunate because this is the first test. Of the standard of our democracy in terms of checking executive powers.
Well, we're running out of time, but we can allow one or two more questions.
Because I have always been confronted with these ideas since the Yakumba case started. I mean, lawyers who have always argued that this is an ideal thing the president can fire have relied on what they claim to be Section 231 to say that the president, which says where any power is conferred by this constitution, to make any proclamation, order, regulation, rule, or pass any resolution, or give any direction, or make any declaration and designation, it shall be deemed to include the power exercisable in like manner, which is what I will hope you will tell us what that means. Exercisable in like manner, subject to like conditions, if any, to amend or to revoke the same. They are saying what the law is simply saying here is that if the president can hire, can appoint, he can qualify.
Okay.
That's what they...
Okay, that's what that is saying. But before I answer your question, can the president fire the speaker? According to the constitution, the president cannot. But who nominated the speaker? The president. So that's one. But if you look at other sections, subsections of 231, it then defines what those appointments are in relation to. Public officials, those in public service. So, and I think section 231 sub 5 or sub 4 actually relates to, says in respect of section 167. But look at what section 167 talks about. So all those things here are in relation to not only appointment, dismissal, but also control over those individuals. Okay? But all those relate to those in the public service. Expressly, I think section 164, or let's see, I cannot remember exactly, but says the president, the vice president, the speaker, the deputy speaker, and members of the National Assembly are not public officials or are deemed to work the public service.
And a nominated member is a member of the National
Assembly.
It all
exactly.
benefits
Yes.
to him.
So that is the thing. So, but it states there, so all those provisions in relation to section 2. So I think people are deliberately misconstruing section 231, because if you look at all the subsections and then look at section 167, it's talking about these appointments and like manner in terms of having that control. So you can hire, you can fire. It relates to public officials, okay, senior civil servants, including judges as well. But people can make this argument that, yes, but the president can fire the chief justice. Yes, the president can do that, but it's not regular, because normally what would have happened is the president doesn't just jump up and appoint somebody as the CJ. Yeah. Normally, they would have appointed themselves in terms of they would have been perhaps the most senior at the time, or their track record would have qualified them to assume that this is what happened during Jawara's time. Yeah. Unfortunately, Yaya Jammeh eroded and undermined the office of the CJ and appointed individuals who were not legally qualified or professionally qualified, people like Emmanuel Fagbele, as CJ, okay? And I'm going to say this for the first time in public. When I was magistrate, okay, when Ibrahim Jete, current High Court judge, was arrested, and at the police headquarters, I think the serious crime or major crime, magistrate, we had a meeting. We had a meeting with the Chief Justice at the time, Fagbele, to discuss that issue, because not only Mr. Jete was one of the most hardworking magistrates, but that the arrest in itself was in relation to the exercise of his judicial functions. And like MPs are immune from prosecution just if they acted in good faith in the exercise of their functions. Okay, so we had this meeting to tell the CJ that we were going to go on strike, or we wanted the CJ to support and tell the executive that they cannot interfere. I remember precisely what Fagbele said, that anybody who is stupid enough to jump into a crocodile-infested pool, then you've only got yourself to blame, whatever. So effectively, what he was saying, that Justice Jete, who is very vocal,
the one who brought trouble to
himself, then he's got himself to blame. So what I'm trying to say to you, people make the argument, yes, but the president can dismiss a Chief Justice if he wishes, but normally, yes, he has the power to do
Let's take one more thing. I saw Cham says there is time, but this one is very important. Halifa Sallah, before he left the Gambia, I mean, you may have read a very lengthy letter he wrote. And in it, he was not very kind to lawyers. I mean, by that I mean, he is of the view that the bar or lawyers could take some of these vital cases that are happening, land cases, human rights violation, executive overreach, and be effective bar instead of this a very lame one we are seeing that's divided between the Gambia Bar Association and lawyers, whatever society. And we've seen that same thing in this case. What's happening in the bar?
If he were talking about perhaps during Yaya Jammeh's time, I think there'll be some credit in that assessment
but
of the
now,
issue.
Even still now, you have two associations.
Yeah, but we have two associations. But you have to really understand the nuance and the politics of the whole issue to make an informed decision. This is not the first time that, but I wasn't here, I was in the country, but I learned this is not the first time that Mboj has decided to create his own group. But there are other issues that I'm not going to disclose or go into in this matter that perhaps have energized or prompted Mr. Mboj to decide to have a rival.
I see.
Okay, but these are personal matters for Mr. Mboj and perhaps other bodies existing within the Bar Association. Okay, so I don't think Mboj's reason for setting up a rival association is ideological. I don't think so. I think because he believes that he's a victim. He believes that there is some form of lack of equity. And for those reasons, but on the part of I agree entirely that during the impasse, when the lawyers came out and spoke publicly and denounced what Yaya Jammeh was trying to do to subvert the will of the people, okay, I thought it set a precedent. Okay, I think it was the catalyst to mobilize all groups to come and denounce what happened. So he had that effect. And I've long argued that the bar should not be silent on important national matters, especially matters that relate to constitutional issues. Okay, but the president, the current president of the Bar Association, Mr. Salif Tal, released a statement, I think within 24 hours, to condemn and to say that it is the opinion of the bar that the attempted removal was unconstitutional, and he gave reasons. So you have to, and I think there are lawyers representing Yakumba, members of the bar, and as far as I understand, on pro bono basis. Okay, but I agree, because the issue of the previous appointment of the former vice president, Fatou Tambajang, perhaps lawyers should have taken that matter to court to challenge the constitution, because there were issues about her age and whether she was eligible to occupy that position. The issue of the supplementary bill, perhaps that could have been taken to court as well. But again, the bar has a voice, and the bar has clout and a certain level of legal and political currency. But you have to be careful. If the bar wants to go to court on every single issue, then that devalues that currency. So they have to be pragmatic, and they have to look at it from a very holistic point of view.
You mean the bar is equally a political institution as far as
tell me which organization, a person who is not political. We are political in everything that we do, whatever you do, because when we talk about politics in this country, people believe you talk about party politics. That's a side issue. Politics in terms of everything that we do. Okay, the discussions we are having now is not about party politics, but it's about the direction of this country. What we're talking about is about constitutionality, legality, all these sort of things. So all these things are politics. So the bar is, if the bar is not political, then I want to know which organization is.
Then I think we would end it there if Cham.
Yes, I can allow
there's time, because because there is one argument that people say it's within the bar. That there are some very senior members like Hussein Dabo and Lawyer Hussein Dabo, and the UDP leader, and also Mr. Antuman Gay, who are in a similar clique and tend to influence the others, and they think that probably Dabo's influence within the bar, it's making it more or less like an extension of Dabo's shadows than an independent institution. There are people who are operating on this theory.
No, that I will completely disagree with. I am not aware of anything in terms of, Dabo is one of the most senior members of the bar.
When Rachel made that statement, people tend to associate it to Dabo, not just because he worked under Dabo for 10 years, but because they think he's sympathetic.
But that may have been, I don't know the reasons why, but that may have been because Rachel Mendy, the former president of the bar, has this very good relationship, because Dabo is her senior and they work together. But people like Mr. Gay and some of the more senior members of the bar and Mr. Dabo having an influence, I am not sure about it. But I agree with you entirely that so many members of the bar, especially new members of the bar, do believe that there is a clique within the bar. Okay, so you've got a very small minority that control the bar's agenda. Okay, without the involvement of the rest of the bar, and the bar membership now is large and varied. Okay, so yes, even I make those.
This is part of the tension.
This is what. But again, let me tell you something. Less than a month ago, I think it was on the 18th of last month, the bar elected a new executive. Yeah. And hopefully, and this is perhaps, since I've been in the Gambia, this is the most diverse executive that I, as far as I know. And I think the mandate of the current president is to diversify the bar. And also have people to have say in the bar who are not. So this idea of, yes, that has always, I think that has been there, and I think that's a justification or claim that people make. But I think we you know, the current executive, I think transcends that argument.
Well, Alhagie Abdouile, Fatou, lawyer, we thank you very much for your insights into these very, very important legal issues that have occupied people's minds, talking points, and even social media over the last 2 years. We are reminded, of course, this is the brunch. I'm sitting in for Joy. We will end this program, of course, with hot spots. So before we get the hot spots, I mean, I want a word or two for you to wrap.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to an eventful week. You know that Yakumba's proposed successor is going to be nominated, sworn in on the 18th, on Monday. And well, I hope it's a peaceful day and it goes smoothly. But we will bring it to our audience here on Kerr Fatou, on our major platform. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Thank you very much, Mustafa. And once again, Alhagie Abdouile, Fatou, lawyer. Now, to end, we go to the Cave Restaurant, because that is the hotspot this week. The Cave Restaurant is located at Fajara. We'll have a watch, and it's from that video we will say goodbye to all our listeners around the world. On behalf of Joe, I'm Lamin Cham. And until we meet again, have a nice week.
Anti Awa man cashier waaw suba dañ dee am English breakfast daf dee am soo bëggee plain omelette tam mun nga koo am Spanish omelette tam mun nga koo am dafa des ci nit ki tamit lu mu bëgga fekkee bëgga nga half chicken sometimes ñeneen ñi dañ dee ñëw ñu order half chicken shawarma dafa des daal lu bëgga waaye comme ndeewoon ni plain omelette ak Spanish omelette ak English breakfast moo dee gën a available waaye dafa des ci nit ki tamit lu mu bëgga rek leneen lu mu order tamit nañ ko mën a defaral. Half chicken mixed grill mu ngi fi so bëggee rice tam mën nañ laa defaral chicken yaasa daf dee am waaw benn ci tam soo bëggee mën nañ laa defaral waaw. Waaw dina tamit ñu ngi am dañ am shrimps am nañ fish and chips am nañ shrimps in breadcrumbs so am nañ special tamit special cave bi boobu tam daf dee ne parce que daf dee nekk ne beef la dee àndal ak chicken nga am sausage so ak yeneen yu sew yi si biir bu moo nekk special dish bi am nañ fi king cave burger tamit am nañ beef burger am nañ chicken burger so dafa des si borom daal lu mu bugg rek mu order ko waaw daf dee available lu mu order rek mu ngi am. suñ special dish bi moom boo demee beneen restaurant moom boobu doo ko fi gis moom te suñ ganaar yi tamit is one in town parce que saa yu nekk ku ñëw jënd si dafa ma dee wax ne sista yéen seen chicken bi moom wax dëgg is special su ma demee yeneen restaurant yi comme lu ngeen dee defee seen chicken bi daal du ma ko dee mën a am feneen si yeneen restaurant bi soo chicken bi moom is special customer yu bari dañ dee dem ñu ñëwaat jënd si waati ko. Customer service, that is fine.
Dreaming of owning a property in a prime location with great proximity and fantastic neighborhood? EJ Investments Sanyang Seaview Estate is the best choice you have been waiting for. Our Sanyang Seaview Estate is approximately 15 minutes drive away from the busy hub of Brusubi roundabout and into the heart of nature, where you can have a peaceful and relaxed lifestyle with your family. You can buy a finished 4-bedroom story with 5-year flexible payment plan or a service plot with 2-year payment plan option. With over 300 homes, you will enjoy big tar roads with covered drainage, modern electrification with solar street lights, gated entrance with security post, and a breath-catching experience of our beautiful sea view and lake view. You can own a home today at our Sanyang Seaview Estate. Call us today on 446-4838 or 325-9220. Visit our website on ejinvestments.net. EJ Investments, first in property.